Hi, I am Kimberly Carter. I am a Gen Z leadership specialist and coach. And today I just want to share about some more of my own personal journey to increasing my self confidence and my self belief. And the reason I talk about this so much, and this is just the focus of what I do, is because I personally had to go through increasing my own self confidence, my own self belief. And before I could do that, I had to have the revelation that my self confidence, my self esteem, my self belief all needed to be strengthened. And when I tell you this has been a lifelong journey, it certainly has been. And so, a little bit of my background, I was adopted into a permanent home when I was 3, and so before that, I had been in the foster system up until that point. And so growing up as an adoptee, I remember my mom who raised me, my adopted mom, she focused in on my self esteem. And so now I'm going to date myself with this, but she bought me cassette tapes. So that goes to show my age. Those cassette tapes, though, were supposed to be played at night, and she had me to play them while I was sleeping, and it was just a cassette tape of a man doing affirmations and self-esteem, self-confidence um, speak, if you will. And I had to put on my headphones and I had to listen to that. I was around 11 when my mom, my adopted mom, gave me those cassette tapes. And it was because she was like, Kimberly, your self-esteem is low. And I do not like it. And I want to increase it. And she was like, I can't do it myself. I don't have all the tools, but I found these cassette tapes and I want you to listen to them every night. And so that's what I had to do. And if I didn't have them in my Walkman, right? There's my age. Then I had to listen to them in the cassette player of my radio. And I don't even know how many years I listened to them. I can't tell you where they are right now, right? I couldn't even put my hands on them right now. But I just know that my mom recognized this early on and she started to address it in the best way that she knew how. And so then, you fast forward, you have those teen years, those development years. My adopted mother died. She passed away when I was 14. And so then it was just myself and my father. So everything that my mom had instilled in me, I still had it. And I still had to navigate through some very hard teen years. Anyone who's navigated through those or helped anyone else navigate them recently understands that these formative years are important, foundational years for anyone. As a young woman, they were foundational for me. I ended up meeting my godmother during those years, and she helped buff away a lot of my rough edges, if you will. But it was always my self confidence and my self belief that were hard for me to fully cultivate. And as a teen, as a child, I was always branded as outspoken. But once I became a young adult, maybe about my mid to late 20s, I realized although I do speak up a lot, I had not been speaking up about things that were sacred or very important to me, or things that I didn't know how to speak about. It's the only way I know how to put that. So I definitely went through a time period in my late 20s of revelation, all tied to something that I've shared before, which is I was fired 2 times in 1 year, and this prompted, I guess, an identity crisis, if you will, because if I could not say, "Oh, I'm Kimberly and I work here," or "I do this thing," then who was I? Right? It's hard to be in society without the label, without the you do this thing or you work at this place, especially in your 20s. I just remember getting fired 2 times in 1 year. And then I had to go ahead and obey God and go on the path that I was supposed to be on, which was I went back to school. I went to ministry school and I have a leadership ministry leadership certificate. And then I also got my bachelor's in Christian ministries. And so those degrees in that time period in my life were very hard. And so on the outside, I presented well. Like I seemed like things were going fine, like la ta da. But I was having an identity crisis because I wasn't working. And so, the work I was doing, to me, it was work, but it wasn't paid work. So, volunteering ministry work. I'm in school. I was married, no kids. And so I was a stay at home wife without kids and without a job to speak of. Of course, I, was at home. And so I did a lot of the home stuff. But my focus was school and, volunteering again. So this time in my life, just kind of unearthed everything that I had never dealt with. And then I ended up embarking on the journey to reconnect to my birth family. And so all of these things collided. And that was my late 20s. I was, I think, when I started that search for my birth family, and I was 30 when I finally made that connection. And so, leaving my 20s, stepping into my 30s, I had been rocked to my core, if you will, right? And so, it was definitely a time for me to unearth what was going on with my confidence. But I did this to myself in a lot of ways. I did join a few support groups that focused in on like being adopted and being an adoptee in reunion with your birth family. But for the most part, I relied on journaling and supportive friends and my husband through that period of my life. I was also very big into small groups through our church. And so I definitely joined those. And although I was not quite ready to articulate my experience of reconnecting to my birth family, it was still um, a good thing to be in community in several different ways. Again, going back to my self confidence and my self belief, I had to walk through this period of reconnecting to my birth family to even know my full identity. And so I realized that the root of my self belief and my self confidence issues all went back to my identity. And a lot of that was missing for me in that I didn't have the knowledge of where I originally had come from, my birth family. And so solving that was a big step for me in increasing my self-confidence in so many ways. But that wasn't the only area in which I felt stagnant or in which I needed to really strengthen my self-confidence. Also in the area of work and a job and just having a career. For me, this was missing for a few years in that, again, I had shifted to ministry leadership school and finishing that degree. And then once I connected to my birth family, my husband and I a year later relocated um, from where we originally were from in the deep south, the east coast, the DMV area. And so all of these things, which is life as we know it, all happened. But again, it unearthed in me the understanding that, hey, Kimberly, you have to work on your self confidence. You have to work on being rooted in knowing who you are in self belief. And I ended up moving. And then I started working on my master's in divinity degree, which is a very hard degree. It required a lot of focus, very deep content. And so, as I was grappling with identity, I was also wrestling with where I was in that process in God's word and just understanding God from that perspective, if you will, and on that deeper level. And so it was just a lot of change, which it was also really good for me. I ended up journaling a lot. I just released my own journal, Rise, Thrive, and Flourish. And a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that journaling for me in my journey to increase my self confidence and my self belief was a big part of it. right? Because as you journal, if you can't tell the truth to anyone out loud, you can always put truth on paper. You can always tell the truth to yourself, even if it's just through written words. And so for me, that was very, very, very pivotal in my development. And so again, I just wanted to start sharing a little bit more about increasing self confidence and self belief and why I even decided to create a journal. My journal has been released. You can purchase it on Amazon. I'll definitely put the link somewhere, maybe in the description or a comment, but it's because it's not just me dropping something for the sake of just having it. It's because journaling was so crucial to my own personal development, my own personal self discovery. And so I think that it's one of the ways that if you can't say it out loud to anyone else, if you don't know how to say it, you can start writing it yourself. And or I mean, I always say writing, but of course you can doodle, you can color, you can just express yourself artistically without judgment and without fear on a journal. The journal that I created, it does have a prompt for 60 days, so it's 2 months worth. But of course, and I don't know if you can see this, this is the digital cover. And of course, it's a daily prompt, but it's been times where I'll get a journal and it could be a daily journal. And some days I'll sit there and I'll do 2 or 3 days. And then I may not do it for a week. And then I may come back and do one day. And so, it's not a rigorous way to journal. I have these 60 prompts because I felt like that was a really good amount of prompts. And of course, it's your journal. So you can go back through it and do it again, get another one if you will, use the same one, but just keep discovering and rediscovering those different answers. Because as we all know, you may have one answer one day for something, and then the next 2 weeks, maybe it evolves. Maybe you go deeper. And so, yes, definitely, I am a major fan of journals and how you can use the tool of journaling to increase your self confidence and your self belief. So, again, I am Kimberly Carter. I am a Gen Z leadership specialist and I am a coach, but I am also a journaler and I love to embark on self discovery through writing and journaling. So, thank you so much. I appreciate you.